What we did in 2016, the election, we call it, with a capital E, it's never been done before, and we're going to do it, I think, again in 2020, and the numbers are going to be even bigger.
2 hours and 20 minutes on Saturday. President Trump rallying the crowds at CPAC in Maryland over the weekend. The longest speech of his presidency. Did he have a note? Did he have a teleprompter?
Yes.
Maybe for a little bit of it. Here's our A-team. Chris Darwalt, Marianne Marsh, Lisa Booth. Hello, you three. Wall Street Journal, Trump's approval rating is up 3 points to 46% in their polling. And here is Newt Gingrich last hour reflecting on the soundbite we just heard from CPAC. Watch.
In the end, whoever they nominate has to be able to be on the stage with Donald J. Trump. He just showed them again Saturday what he's going to be like. He's going to be on offense. He's going to be knowledgeable. He will have honed every single line that works. And he will go after them aggressively every single day.
We cut her off a few minutes ago. Lisa, you're back on.
I know. I won't get back into that conversation. But look, it's entirely dependent. 2020 is going to be entirely dependent on who Democrats nominate as their nominee. And they're going to have an incredibly crowded primary field. We're already seeing that stack up. As we know, and what we observed from 2016 and people who've worked on campaigns and observed them is that when you have crowded primary fields, it creates unique outcomes. And what I think is interesting, and the person to watch for me, is Bernie Sanders. Because you look at all the enthusiasm on the left, it was with him. And so you could potentially have someone like him move forward and get by in a crowded primary field. And what I also think is interesting is you look at something like in 2015 when he introduced Medicare for All, that was considered completely outside of the mainstream. Now it's basically a litmus test for the presidential candidates on the left. And so Bernie Sanders, as a Democrat socialist, is no longer outside of the mainstream of the Democratic Party. Gallup even found that in a recent poll, I think it was in 2018, found that more Democrats see themselves as socialists than they do capitalists. So I think that is what is incredibly interesting to me, is that is the movement of the Democrat Party.
How are things going?
We're good.
Oh, come on.
No, I will say that I think this election, the 2020 election, will be defined by the Mueller report and the investigations and what happens when we find out about what happened in the 2016 election. And here's why. I think it's going to define the debate, define the election, and determine the nominee, possibly on both sides, Democrat and Republican. There's no guarantee that Donald Trump makes it to 2020 here, number one. Number two, to your point about socialism, this actually came up in a poll 2 or 3 years ago at the Kennedy School, John Della Volpe, and think about it. It's most popular when defined in a certain way with the youngest voters who came of age during the recession, who saw their parents lose their jobs, lose their homes, never came back.
So what happens when the establishment has to boost Joe Biden and knock Bernie Sanders off his pedestal?
I'm not convinced Biden. I don't
That's
think
going to be a
Biden
mess,
runs.
isn't it,
I'm not
Chris?
sure he runs.
I'm with Marianne. I'm not sure he runs.
I don't think so.
His Hamlet act is getting a little stale.
Yeah.
Look, when Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, he had a very low floor. It was possible that he could have crashed and burned and gotten routed by Hillary Clinton. That was in the polling. That was an available setting. The Republicans mostly stuck with him and took him over the finish line. This time, his floor is much higher. The Republicans are sticking with Trump. Now, look, all that you say may be true, all that may come to pass. But at this moment, as we sit here and talk today, Donald Trump's support among Republicans is at 85 or 90%. He'd like a traditional candidate. So Donald Trump isn't starting out at 40% of the electorate. He's starting out at 46, 47% of the electorate. Now he's just got to get the rest of the way there.
It didn't take long to see person after person take the stage at CPAC and see that the theme was targeting socialism, Lisa.
Well, right. And we saw President Trump sort of set up this debate in his Venezuela speech in Miami as well. And this also sounds really good to a large Venezuelan population in Miami, also Cubans in Miami who have suffered at the hands of these types of governments. So it also plays into a lot of legal immigrants that are here in the country that know socialism all too well. So I think that's a powerful debate to have for President Trump. I also do think President Trump, they're clearly gearing up for him to run in 2020, and it's ultimately going to come down to the Rust Belt states. It's the same thing that happened in 2016.
Last point on
and
that.
Tell me, I don't see a Kamala Harris being able to win the Rust Belt states. So it's going to be dependent on who Democrats end up nominating.
Hillary Clinton from over the weekend, she was in Alabama. Listen to the end of this point here. Watch.
This is a time, my friends, when fundamental rights, civic virtue, freedom of the press, the rule of law, truth, facts, and reason are under assault. And make no mistake, we are living through a full-fledged crisis in our democracy.
Oh, if I just dropped in from Mars, I'd think the sky was falling. But yet the Dow's at 26,000 and unemployment is still at record lows across the board. Run against that.
Well, and in fact, when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump in 2016, she promised that there would be actual nuclear holocaust, that life on Earth would be destroyed, that the choices were...
And we're still here.
You may not like me, or the Earth may be incinerated into a burnt cinder orbiting the sun. They set the bar pretty low for Donald Trump, and he has surmounted those expectations very easily.
Thank you, sir. Nice to see you. We got to run, Marianne. Thank you, Lisa.
I tried, Lisa. I tried to give you a final thought there. Hemorrhage.
That's all right.
We got to
Next
run.
time.
Great,